Good evening. Life 101B. Oh, I forgot to turn off my fan. Be so muffled. Ambient. Maybe you are more than your body. The body has an enormous wisdom. It circulates blood, digests food, and performs thousands of necessary functions every second, all without your even having to think about them. The body keeps itself from getting ill and heals itself when it does. It sees, hears, feels, tastes, smells, and has all the sense to do that without ever being taught how. It performs the amazing feat of balancing itself on two legs, something, considering its size, proportions, and center of gravity, it has no business doing. Alas, the body doesn't have much smarts. Instincts, absolutely. Other animals have bodies too, complete with wisdom and instincts. But something, whatever it is, reason, intelligence, awareness, soul, or smarts, separates humans from the rest of the animal kingdom. Ask yourself, are you, the you, located in the body or located in the something extra? That's a loaded question, of course. Who can resist the temptation to associate themselves with something extra, especially a mysterious something extra? Even if we unload the question, are you more than your physical body? I think you see the point. As remarkable as our bodies are, we somehow know that we are more remarkable than that. Perhaps you're more than your mind. This is a difficult concept for thinkers to think about, and for comprehenders to comprehend. That which separates humans from beasts is human beings' superior intellect, they say. It's a well-developed mind. Perhaps, perhaps not. Let's explore. The mind is often too full of opinions and facts about the way things were to accurately evaluate the way things are. For many people, the mind's job is to prove what it already knows is enough. There's no need to learn anything new. As John Kenneth Galbraith pointed out, faced with the choice between changing one's mind and proving there is no need to do so, almost everyone gets busy on the proof. Firmness of mind to a point is a good thing. It keeps us from being wishy-washy, swayed by every new tidbit of information that comes our way. If firmness is carried out to an extreme, however, the mind becomes closed to new information from any source. The closed mind is, obviously, not open to learning. Learning is the assimilation and integration of new ideas, concepts, and behaviors. You may be wondering, is my mind closed? Well, if you asked yourself that, it probably isn't. The closed mind, when faced with the concept that it is a mind, the closed mind, when faced with the concept that the mind is not the it of its, disregards the information, often vehemently. As Dorothy Parker said, this book is not to be tossed lightly aside, but to be hurled with great force. If you're still reading this book and actively exploring the option that the mind might not be you, then your mind is obviously open enough to accept the idea that it is not necessarily the it of its, and therefore open to learning such... I'm sorry, hold on. After work coffee. Is there any pleasure greater in life? Nope. But books, such as Life 101, have filters built in, not into the book, but into the people who might read that book. Those not open to new ideas seldom read books that contain new ideas. These people don't even pick up such books, whose titles are often reason enough to disregard them. Their minds dismiss any book threatening to teach them something, okay, their minds dismiss any book threatening to teach them something with, no, it's one of those books. Even certain sections of the bookstore are taboo. Some people never visit any of those sections. For some, the mere fact that it's a book is reason not to be bothered. And I don't mean to belittle the mind. I make my living with mine. The mind is an essential tool for storing, organizing, conceptualizing, and replaying information. My point is that the mind is a marvelous servant. It just makes a poor master. Possibly, you are more than your emotions. Feelings are good things to have when you're feeling good. Well, there's nothing that feels quite so good as good feelings. On the other hand, when feelings feel bad, we often wish we didn't feel at all. Emotions are like the vibrations on the string of a violin. They're essential to the song, but they're not the essence of the violin. We experience life's pains and pleasures through our emotions. Because of this, some people decide they are their feelings. I feel, therefore I am. The problem is, emotions are too often too wrong to be who we truly are. Did you ever feel you could trust somebody and you couldn't? Did you ever feel something bad was going to happen and it didn't? Did you ever feel you could spend the rest of your life loving someone? Well, you know what happened to that one. Or, more likely, you don't know what happened to that one. Our emotions are like yo-yos. Sometimes they're up, sometimes they're down. We can walk the dog, we can go around the world or practice sleeping. Yo-yos are fun, but who's holding the string? If someone's holding the string, then you must be more than the string. Be it the string of a violin, the strings of your heart, or the string of a yo-yo. So who are you? If you are not your body, your mind, or your emotions, who are you? Now some might say your sense of self is simply an amalgam of the three, that the interplay of the body, mind, and emotions makes the whole, that is greater than the sum of the parts, and that greater whole we call the self. This definition is fine with me, as are any religious, spiritual, or metaphysical views of self you may have. We'll get to those. Yes, all of them. In just a moment. I'm not here to answer the question, who are you? I'm here to suggest that there is a you to be discovered, and the discovery of that you is entirely your own, although the entire world is willing to help. Tennessee Williams says, "It's an unanswered question, but let us still believe in the dignity and importance of the question." The gap. God, religion, reincarnation, atheism, agnosticism, and all that. I am going to take a clear, unequivocal, unambiguous position on God, religion, reincarnation, atheism, agnosticism, and all that. And my clear, unambiguous, and unequivocal position is this. I am clearly, unambiguously, unequivocally not taking a position. It is not that I don't have a point of view about these things. It's just that the information in Life 101 works regardless of my or yours or anyone's point of view. There are certain forces like the pull of gravity, the need for breathing, the desire for Haagen-Dazs, that affect all of us regardless of beliefs. Life 101 concerns itself with those belief-proof issues. I'd like to introduce a portion of life I call the gap. The gap is the area into which I put many, often conflicting beliefs people have about what's the big force behind it all and how does this big force interact with human beings. The gap can be any size, large or small. For some it's a hairline crack. For others it's vast enough to hold universes. and I'm not here to comment on the contents of anyone's gap. The contents of your gap are between you and whoever or whatever is in your gap. I'm not conforming, endorsing, or supporting any point of view. Most people find this statement liberating. You mean I don't have to sort out the gap before I sort out my life? No. In fact, a sorted, prosperous, and joyful life might make the gap exploration all the more fruitful. And some people have firm convictions on what should and should not be contained in everyone else's gap. Others have powerful beliefs concerning the lack of the gap itself. My militant wishy-washyism on this point will probably gather me detractors from both extremes. One side might say, I can't possibly read a book by a person who does not categorically and emphatically state that there is a God and believe in my God in my way. And I might ask these people if they ever read a cookbook, a road atlas, or an auto repair manual. These seldom state the theological convictions of the authors, but nevertheless read by the righteous every day. The other extreme might say, I can't even consider a book by a person who is not even open to the idea that there is a God, or who is even open to the idea that there is a God. And I wonder if these people also investigate the beliefs of their doctors, dentists, mail carriers, and refuse service if any of them happens to feel all right about the Almighty. What I believe in is giving people the freedom to believe whatever they choose to believe. The techniques contained in Life 101 will help believers and unbelievers and anyone in between to live a healthier, wealthier, and happier life. I'll be discussing techniques as direct and as mechanical as cooking, car repair, map reading, and mail delivery. Like cooking, car repair, map reading, and mail delivery, however, these techniques for living a happier, healthier, more productive life, in some cases, have been linked to specific religious or non-religious beliefs. And what I'm attempting to do in this chapter is to separate these techniques, which work regardless of belief or disbelief, from the claim that organized schools of thought, be they religious or science, have at times placed on them. The doctor who gives a vaccination and says, thank God this child is safe from smallpox, and the doctor who gives a vaccination and says, thank Jenner this child is safe from smallpox, gave the same vaccination. And some may say that the doctor who gives a blessing is a better doctor, and some may say that the doctor who sticks to medicine is a better doctor, but in either case, thank God and or Jenner, the child is safe. Historically, some religions have been slow to adopt certain scientific discoveries, and science has taken quite a while to adopt some mystical techniques. Personally, I think we're all old enough to set aside the source, history, and trappings of certain techniques and ask of them a simple question. Do they work? Do they produce the desired result? And do they get you what you want and need? In my 30 years of continuously exploring life, it started when I was 15, give or take a summer vacation, that's the question I've asked. It's interesting that I can ask the question itself and it still holds up. So, as we go along, if I make a point that sounds like something you heard in Sunday school, well, that may be because you heard it in Sunday school. If I say something and you think, well, that sounds like the Ten Commandments, maybe it is one of the Ten Commandments. And if you say, there he goes again, referring to godless science, well, that's because I'm probably referring once again to godless science. I care where ideas come from. I enjoy history, but I care even more where they might take me. Albert Einstein said, my religion consists of a humble admiration of the illimitable superior spirit who reveals itself in the slight details that we are able to perceive with our frail and feeble mind. Jacob Bronowski said, sooner or later, every one of us breathes an atom that has been breathed before by someone, anyone you can think of who has lived before us. Michelangelo, or George Washington, or Moses. There is more going on than our senses perceive. Our view of the world is primarily made up of what we have perceived through our five senses. What we personally know of the world, we have either seen, touched, tasted, smelled, or heard. Unfortunately, our senses are limited. Therefore, our view of the world is limited. This is not a problem unless we start believing that what we perceive is all there is. It's not. This can be disturbing news for those who believe if I can't see it, taste it, smell it, hear it, or feel it, forget it. If I told you right now there are hundreds of voices, pictures, and songs filling the air around you, but you're unable to see or hear any of them, what would you think? Would you think I was talking some metaphysical mumbo-jumbo? Well, if there are hundreds of voices, pictures, and songs around me, I'd be able to at least hear some of them. Not necessarily. Then your explanation's going to be pretty weird. Not necessarily. Okay, explain. Well, right now you're surrounded by waves of energy. I knew it would be weird. That are used to transmit radio, television, walkie-talkie, CB, portable phone, and many other communication devices. And my gosh, he didn't even know the half of it, didn't he? This man died in, I believe, the earlier mid-90s. So, cell phone, EMF, radiation, microphone, or microwave. Oh, we're bombarded with everything. If you had, say, a TV, you can tune in these waves of energy. The TV would translate what your senses cannot perceive into what they can. The fact that we can't see, hear, or feel these waves without a TV doesn't mean they're not there. And so it is with all sorts of natural and human-made phenomenon. If we have the proper instrument, we can perceive them. If not, we can't. Dogs smell and hear better than most humans. Cats see better in the dark. Birds are more sensitive to movement. Even houseflies seem to know when you're about to swat them. Hey, did you know that houseflies take off backwards? So if you want to swat one, aim slightly behind it. You see? This book is full of things you never learned in school. The point is simple. There's more to life than meets the eye. Sir Arthur Stanley said, "Man is slightly nearer to the atom than to the star. From his central position, man can survey the grandest works of nature with the astronomer, or the minutest works with the physicist. The great pretender, or all life, is in the fast lane. Let's, just for the heck of it, break life into its component parts, or maybe part. When we decide to get small, atoms are a good place to start. To get an idea of how small an atom in it is, imagine a cherry. Then imagine trillions and trillions of cherries, all in one enormous ball. Imagine a ball the size of the earth, made up of cherries. This large ball of cherries, the size of the earth, would be a fairly accurate model of the atomic structure of an orange. That is, if you enlarged an orange until it was the size of the earth, the atoms in that very large orange would be the size of cherries, and the cherries would be so far apart that you could see right through it. Another demonstration of an atom's smallness. Pure gold can be pounded very thin. When pounded extremely thin, it's known as gold leaf. Gold leaf is about 5 gold atoms thick. If this book and 3 others just as thick were printed on gold leaf, the total thickness of all 4 books would be about as thick as a single sheet of paper. Remember those models of atoms they showed us in school? They looked like little solar systems. In some schools they probably used the same model for both atoms and solar systems. In the middle were the protons and neutrons. This, the teacher explained, formed the nucleus. then only slightly smaller than the nucleus, and about 12 inches away, depending on the end of what looked like a coat wire hanger, was the electron. In fact, the whole solar system model of an atom has been abandoned. Think of the proton and neutron in the center surrounded by a cloud. That cloud would be the electron or electrons of the atom. In addition, the scale of the high school model was, to say the least, inaccurate. If the nucleus of an atom were, say, the size of a tennis ball, the electron cloud would be from 1 to 10 miles thick in all directions, depending on the size of the atom. If the nucleus were the size of a tennis ball, the atom could be from 2 to 20 miles in diameter. So, to give you another idea of the size, imagine the dome of St. Peter's Cathedral. Well, if you haven't been to St. Peter's, imagine the biggest dome you've ever seen and make it bigger. If the hydrogen atom were the size of St. Dome's, of the Peter's dome, the nucleus would be the size of a grain of salt. But the atom with nucleus the size of a grain of salt only appears to be the size of St. Peter's dome. The nucleus is 99.95% of the mass, or solid stuff, of the atom. The rest of the atom is nothing, appearing to be much, much more. A grain of salt, pretending to be a dome. The Encyclopedia Britannica tells us an atom, and thus all matter, is mostly empty space. How does an atom do this? Energy. The protons and neutrons in the nucleus of an atom move about 4,000 miles per second. The electron cloud is full of, not surprisingly, electrical energy. And not only is the empty space within atoms large, but the space between atoms, the space in which there's nothing at all, is enormous. This doesn't fit our perception of, or even belief about, things at all. As Britannica tells us, some daily life concepts are no longer valid on the atomic scale. Indeed. For example, there is more empty space in the book you're holding than book. The atoms of the book give the illusion of solid ink on solid paper. They're not. It's just an illusion. If the electricity in the electron cloud were switched off even for an instant, this book would crumble into atomic dust. The amount of dust not even visible to the naked eye, this book would appear to disappear. Poof! The same is true of whatever you're sitting or lying on, everything in the room or the vehicle you're currently in, and everything you've ever seen, touched, heard, tasted, or smelled. So, by the way, it's true of your body. Welcome to life. Sir William Bragg said, "The important thing in science is not so much to obtain new facts as to discover new ways of thinking about them." Albert Einstein again, "The most incomprehensible thing about the world is that it is comprehensible." And does this sound like a good spot? Or go on to... Okay, we'll finish what Mr. McWilliams believes is the first part, is part 2, so we're just going to go on just a little bit more. So what does a chapter on atomic physics have to do with a book on life? A few facts can be gleaned from the study of the atom. Contrary to our perception and belief, there is more nothing than something, even in things that appear to have more something than nothing. Everything is always in motion, even things that don't appear to have moved in millions of years. The perception of things, that things are solid and stationary, is an illusion. Physicist Fritjof Capra, in the Tao of Physics, As we penetrate into matter, nature does not show us any isolated basic building blocks, but rather appears as a complicated web of relations between the various parts of the whole. These relations always include the observer in an essential way. The human observer constitutes the final link in the chain of the observational processes. And the properties of any atomic object can be understood only in terms of the object's interaction with the observer. Capra concludes, in atomic physics, we can never speak of nature without at the same time speaking of ourselves. Life, it turns out, is not a struggle. It's a wiggle. Which is more important, heredity or Eliot? Remember the old question, which is more important, heredity or environment? I say old question when perhaps I should say obsolete question. The question has been answered, and in time will be asked about as often as, is the world flat or round? Is sex possible after 40? Does McDonald's do all for you? Do it all for you? Or do they do it all for the money? The answers to these questions in order are heredity, round, I don't remember, and money. An elaborate study tracked down identical twins separated at birth. Each twin had grown up in different environments but had the same genetics. In some cases, the environments were very different. One twin grew up in poverty, the other in luxury. One with stern parents, the other with permissive parents. One in a devoutly religious family, and the other in a devoutly indifferent family. And one in a broken home, the other in a happy home. Some were even raised in other cultures and grew up speaking different native languages. The twins were given tests that measured more than 100 variables of personality. What the study found was that identical twins were, in a word, identical. They were essentially the same person. Yes, of course, each child had individual distinctions. Just as there's something that distinguishes one seagull from another, but when compared to other people, like comparing seagulls to skylarks, identical twins are far more the same than different. A seagull is a seagull is a seagull, a rose is a rose is a rose, and you are you are you. Let's all sing along. Old McWilliams wrote a book, you are you are you, and in this book he said with pride, I am I. Enough singing, back to class. This motherfucker was just like me. I love this man. I love him so much. He was such a good, love him. I love this person so much. Hold on. I love you, Mr. McWilliams. Okay. This study merely supports numerous other studies that have gradually traced the roots of who we are to younger and younger ages. Studies indicated the basic personality was formed before puberty, then before age 5, then before 2, and then somewhere between the first Lamaze class and the fathers yelling, I can't take any more of this! I need something for the pain! In one human trait after another, what was once considered a choice is now seen as the result of the birth parents tossing the old genetic dice. Such characteristics as body, weight, sexual preference, and shopping at Kmart seem to be as genetically based as eye color, height, and intelligence. Yes, we can choose to go against genetics, but usually with great difficulty. Kmart shoppers are simply never going to be happy shopping exclusively at Neiman Marcus, and vice versa. Especially vice versa. More vice versa than vice versa. Yes, severe extremes in the environment will override genetics. Hey, I had a bookmark and now I can't find it. And that's going to make me freak out for 5 seconds. Okay, we're not allowed to freak out anymore, but I can't find it. Well, 5 seconds is up. This is not it. Yes, severe extremes in the environment will override genetics. Extended malnutrition in childhood, for example, can stunt growth, just as extreme social prejudice can make those with more than the normal number of fat cells and near anorexic, or make homosexuals mimic heterosexuality. But studies prove, Peter McWilliams was a homosexual. So this is his knowledge at the time of his life. When he gives a footnote here. The latter two examples have as much to do with the individual's need for approval and their willingness to conform as they do with social pressures. They are, after all, any number of happy, heavy people and gay homosexuals. Gay isn't happy. The need for approval and willingness to conform, however, are most likely, genetic. But studies prove that troubled youths come from troubled homes. Yes, troubled youths are... I'm sorry, this should have been a quotation. But studies prove that troubled youths come from troubled homes. Yes, troubled youths are more likely to come from troubled homes, just as chickens tend to come from chicken coops, but that doesn't mean that troubled homes create troubled youth, any more than chicken coops create chickens. Troubled youths come from troubled homes because they inherited troubled genes from the troubled homemakers. Frankly, the common belief that the environment is more important than heredity, or even that the two are equally important, but is another example of our habits as humans of setting ourselves above nature. We are part of nature. We grow from it. We're not placed in it. Consequently, the laws of nature apply to us as much as they apply to snowflakes, water buffalo, and spam. And one of nature's most influential laws is that of genetics. Plant a radish seed, get a radish. If you're an orange blossom, don't look forward to being an apple. If you're a rose, you come with thorns. All of this came home literally when I ordered a See the Miracle of Nature and Grow Your Own Butterflies kit. A week later, the UPS driver delivered a plastic cup with some green gunk at the bottom, and on the top of the green gunk were 5 black half-inch long pipe cleaners. The pipe cleaners I discovered were caterpillars. These things are going to become butterflies. Yeah, right. The black pipe cleaners moved around and ate the green gunk and got bigger. I was still quite certain that I had been sent a Grow Your Own Pipe Cleaner kit by mistake. After about 10 days, as if someone had rung a bell, the caterpillars all climbed to the top of the cup, attached themselves to the lid, and promptly turned themselves into chrysalis. On each chrysalis was a gold iridescent reflective shiny gold. How on earth the black pipe cleaners eating green gunk make gold? No time to marvel, because B-Day was on its way, and I had to put together the supplied butterfly house, which any child could assemble in less than 30 minutes. Of course, it took me half a day, and even then I had to accept the fact that my butterflies are going to be raised in substandard housing. I could never find tab C, which was supposed to go into slot K. Into their new slum housing with, I need to, give me a moment. Into their new sub-housing with the chrysalises, out of which, after another 10 days, and another inaudible to me larval, became butterflies. Painted lady butterflies. On the wings were every color of the rainbow. How on earth did every color of the rainbow come from black caterpillars eating green gunk? The answer to how on earth is that they are of the earth. That's just what painted lady caterpillars do. It's in the genetic code. It's determined the moment the egg is fertilized. And it's not just when and how to turn from black pipe cleaners to iridescent gold chrysalis to multicolored butterfly. The code also includes what to eat, how to mate, when to mate, and when and where to migrate. My gracious, migration. Painted lady butterflies gather by the millions, again at a time determined by one of those inaudible bells, and fly south together. More often than 2,000 miles. In the spring they gather again and fly back home. All the painted lady butterflies need to know, from eating to migrating and making other painted butterfly ladies, is contained within the fertilized egg. It's run by the law of genetics, as is about every other portion of the living world, including us. Perhaps I should say especially us. Imagine all the painted lady butterfly knowers before it even hatches itself. Imagine how much more we must know with our mere intricate and elaborate genetic makeup. Yes, we are different from butterflies, but not because we choose to be different, but because we are different. Are human beings superior to butterflies? Depends on your criteria. When it comes to eating 3 hot dogs in less than 5 minutes, humans are far superior to butterflies. But when it comes to flying... Footnote: the pipe cleaners and green gunk, along with the build-it-yourself substandard butterfly housing, are available from Insect Lore Products, blah 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 blah, and I do not get a royalty, blah 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 blah. Chang Tzu said, "I do not know whether I was a man dreaming I was a butterfly, or whether I am now a butterfly dreaming that I am a man." Painted Lady Lesson Number 1. The only reasonable course of action seems to be acceptance. Painted Lady Lesson Number 2. Yes, we can make change, but change is very expensive and our resources are limited. Choose wisely what to change, accept the rest. Painted Lady Lesson Number 3. Eat the green gunk. Hang in there. Listen for the alarm bells, and there will be golden, fluttering, soaring surprises. Painted Lady Lesson Number 4. It's easier to wear and improve the jeans you already have than to go to the Gap and try to get another pair. Does this seem to be complacent? Not at all. There's so much not inherited, so much to be learned. And all the great thoughts of those who went before us. For example, T.S. Eliot wrote that tradition cannot be inherited, and if you want it, you must obtain it by great labor. And some of that great labor might include deciphering the works of T.S. Eliot. He is, by his own admission, full of high sentence, but a bit obtuse. And like all good learning, however, understanding Eliot is worth the effort. Poets in our civilization, as it exists at present, must be difficult. The poet must become more and more comprehensive, more elusive, more indirect, in order to force, to dislocate, if necessary, language into its meaning. But, Eliot continues, genuine poetry can communicate before it is understood. That's a relief. Capturing the poem is not. Each venture is a new beginning, a raid on the inarticulate, with shabby equipment always deteriorating in the general mess of imprecision of feeling. Hey, one cannot write poetry for fame, and certainly not for money. What are the odds Andrew Lloyd Webber will take your poetry and turn it into cats? As things are, and as fundamentally they must always be, poetry is not a career, but a mug's game. No honest poet can ever feel quite sure of the permanent value of what he has written. He may have wasted his time and messed up his life for nothing. Wow. Let's take a glimpse at this mug's game. Each paragraph is an excerpt from an Eliot poem. My apologies to Eliot for their selection and arrangement. Wavering between profit and the loss is this brief transit where dreams can cross. The dream crossed twilight between birth and dying. Where is the life we have lost in living? Where is the wisdom we have lost in knowledge? Where is the knowledge we have lost in information? The readers of the Boston Evening Transcript sway in the wind like a field of ripe corn. What is hell? Hell is oneself. Hell is alone. The other figures in it, merely projections. I have measured out my life with coffee spoons. I love you too, Mr. Eliot. Who then devised the torment? Love. Love is the unfamiliar name behind the hands that wove the intolerable shirt of flame, which human power cannot remove. We only live, only suspire, consumed by either fire or fire. Uncorseted, her friendly bust gives promise of pneumatic bliss. Between the conception and the creation, between the emotion and the response, falls the shadow. And indeed, there will be a time to wonder, do I dare, and do I dare? Between the idea that the reality, between the idea and the reality, between the motion and the act, falls the shadow. Stand on the highest pavement of the stair, lean on the garden run, weave the sunlight in your hair. Let us go then, you and I, when the evening is spread out against the sky, like a painted etherized upon a table. Like a patient etherized upon a table. Oh, hidden under the dove's wing, hidden in the turtle's breast, under the palm tree at noon, under the running water, at the still point of the turning world, oh, hidden. Except for the point, the still point, there would be no dance, and there is only the dance. We shall not cease from exploration, and the end of all our exploring will be to arrive where we started, and know the place for the first time. Note how this chapter has metamorphosized. 'Tis but a gift of the butterflies. Okay. Okay. Oh, scruff it. It's okay. All right, not much longer. Are human beings fundamentally good or fundamentally evil? My answer is good. My proof? I could quote philosophers, psychologists, poets, but then those who believe humans are fundamentally evil can quote just as many philosophers, psychologists, and poets. My proof, such as it is a simple one. It returns to the source of human life, the infant. When you look at the eyes of an infant, what do you see? I've looked into a few, and I have yet to see fundamental evil radiating from a baby's eyes. Well, there seems to be a purity, joy, brightness, splendor, sparkle, marvel, happiness. You know, good. And yet, if we are fundamentally good, why is it when we relax and listen to our thoughts, or feel our emotions, or sense our bodies, we often find so much rubbish? Here's my explanation for that in the form of a diagram. Okay, this is the diagram, which is backwards, kind of looks like Chinese to you. The inner goods, the core self area. This is just a very rudimentary idea here. Learn junk comes around that. This is where you learn how to, hide, morph, change, fit in, class clown, all that shit. And then you've got your imitation, like how do you say and do the right things, social interactions, good pretense. And babies are like sponges. They absorb everything by the time by the time they are 2 years old, they have observed more than 8,000 hours of life. The good, the bad, the ugly, plus whatever was on TV. As they begin to act out this array of observations, they are informed, sometimes in no uncertain terms, that some behavior is good, some is bad. And around here we don't do the bad, we only do the good. And what do I mean by evil? Evil is unnecessary life experience. Whatever we need to do to learn a lesson is life, even if it's not fun. When the not fun continues after the lesson is learned or the job is done, that's evil. To cut off a dog's tail when necessary is life. To do it inch by inch at a time is evil. At first, the child has trouble understanding why are some things right while others are wrong. This stage is often referred to as the terrible twos. But eventually the child learns, with varying degrees of success, to cover the bad with the good and the wrong with the right. We are taught to pretend to be good, and when we let the pretense slip, we find evil lurking just below the surface. It's little wonder, then, that most people think their inner self is bad. The struggle to keep up the good act is a never-ending battle for truth, justice, and the American way. When people have the patience and courage to go beyond or beneath the inner evil, they find invariably a sea of peace, calm, and joy. They have reached the inner good that is their true nature. Ironically, this inner good is often remarkably similar to the good shell that was fabricated for them by the parental construction company. The difference here is that, coming from this center, people do good because good is the thing to do, not because they're supposed to do good, or because they might get punished if they don't. Your friends may think you are, say, a happy person, and you might think, what do they know? If only they knew how happy I am inside. I only pretend to be happy, and they fall for it. Well, what kind of friends are these? The truth may be that beneath the unhappiness is a genuine happiness, and perhaps the happiness your friends see is the genuine happiness, and not the pretense of happiness that you use for cover. This is true of any good emotion, thought, or behavior. Love, joy, gratitude, enthusiasm, compassion, generosity, tenderness, bravery, cleanliness, reverence, and all the rest. If you think you're fooling people with your act of goodness, and you think you aren't all that good, well, maybe you're the one fooling yourself. And that be that for this. Lord Chesterfield, oh, that would be for tomorrow. Alright, well, I just feel like ending this. Alright. Oh, that one went pretty long. Good night.